Guthrie case. This is new video into our newsroom of FBI fingerprinting. Someone. An active police situation is underway in Tucson. Sources say it's linked to the search for Guthrie. The mother of Today's Show host Savannah Guthrie. The scene is about 2 miles from her home, where multiple agencies have blocked off a neighborhood in the Oro Valley area. The FBI is offering a $100,000 reward for information leading to her return. Investigators describe a possible suspect as a man between 5'9" and 5'10" with a medium build. And with that, welcome to Good Night, LA. I'm Susan Hirosuna, in for Christine Devine. New tonight, activists and faith leaders unite in Los Angeles to demand an end to U.S. support in arming Israel and the immigration and customs enforcement raids here at home. Fox 11's Ed Lascos reports from downtown LA.
It's called a Solidarity Shabbat. Members of the Jewish Voice for Peace LA taking their prayers and their message right to the very spot where the feds are holding the ICE detainees. Watch. On this night, Shabbat ceremonies held in the shadow of the Metropolitan Detention Center.
Black and brown communities here in Los Angeles are being targeted and terrorized through raids, arrests, and detention in places like this very building.
They are on the move, marching down Alameda, singing and waving up to those detained inside, who are now waving back. You're watching a Solidarity Shabbat, as they call it here.
We're at a situation where people are needing to either shelter at home, not able to go to work, or have their neighbors come and pick them up and shuttle them. Like, it is hard to wrap our heads around.
All this just hours after a big student rally downtown, all in sharp opposition of the federal immigration raids. At one point, the crowd moves in on the detention center. There's a clash with federal agents, shoving, pushing, reports of one federal officer being hurt. It is a Friday of strong emotions against ICE, ending with prayers here. All from those the resistance.
I spend regular shifts at the Home Depot. I work during the week, so I'm there on the weekends, but all last summer I was there.
The resistance of everyday people, right? These aren't heroes, right? It's everyday people that are standing up for their neighbors, and that's actually what it's gonna take.
In prayer, we're right here.
Now back here, that is their message. Resistance. They say peaceful resistance is a way to finally stop these continuing ICE raids as they go through the LA area. For now, we're in downtown. Back to the west side we go.
New at 10, the Wall Street Journal reports tonight that Casey Wasserman is selling his talent agency after emails tied him to Jeffrey Epstein. In a memo, Wasserman called himself a distraction and apologized for the 2003 connection with Ghislaine Maxwell. He denies any personal or business ties to Epstein. Wasserman, who also chairs the 2028 LA Olympics, will remain in that role.
police just clearing the scene a short time ago, just about 2 miles away from Nancy Guthrie's home. Let's get right out to News Nation's Jessica Cartalia live in Tucson there near Nancy Guthrie's home. Jessica, what do we know at this hour?
Yeah, so still no sign of Nancy Guthrie. We had all of these developments overnight, Anna, but the big question is, where is she? Still no proof of life. It is now 2 weeks since she went missing from her home here in the Catalina foothills in Tucson. Last night, a mobile command center, a SWAT team, bomb squad, all deployed to a home about 5 minutes from here. News Nation was the first on the scene. 3 people were detained, 2 of them in a home. 1 was picked up while driving. Forensic vehicles packed that area. They were there throughout the night into the early morning hours. We know as many as 10 FBI vehicles were on scene. Police believe that the third person taken in that traffic stop was somehow connected to the 2 detained in the home. He was on his way back to that house. This all comes hours after we learned that DNA belonging to someone other than Nancy Guthrie was discovered inside of her home. That was sent off to a lab to be analyzed, in addition to other evidence that we found, or that they found here inside of the home. We spoke with the sheriff last night. He said that there has been no disconnect between the FBI and the sheriff's department. As we'd been reporting, there seemed to be some disconnect over who was actually leading the investigation out here, where that evidence was sent, as we know that it was sent off to a lab in Florida as opposed to Quantico, which is where the best of the best in the FBI analyze any evidence that's brought in for DNA. So again, we're still waiting for word on what exactly happened last night. We are hoping that they do some sort of press conference today, but we have not heard from that sheriff publicly in more than a week, aside from those one-on-one interviews.
That's right. Yes, he's become a bit more quiet, but now we are hearing from him once again. You're doing a great job out there. Great reporting. Jessica Cartalia, thank you so much.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our News Nation app right now on your
Built and heated industrial laser weld, 0.1 second precise welding.
And a Fox News alert, we are monitoring a possible major breakthrough in the Nancy Guthrie case. A massive search is underway in Tucson, with swarms of police spotted at the home 2 miles from missing 84-year-old. Residents overnight.
A law enforcement source tells Fox News Digital that at least 3 people are detained as part of the investigation into Nancy's disappearance. We believe it is 2 men and 1 woman.
And in another late-night incident, we're watching a 4th person detained outside a Culver's fast food restaurant located 2 miles from Nancy's home. But officials have not confirmed if this is connected to the Guthrie investigation. We also saw officers towing the man's silver or gray Range Rover, setting a tarp up. You can see here as they appear to remove items from the back of the vehicle. It's also unknown at this time if any of the 4 suspects are indeed part of this investigation.
Our teams have been on the ground all night as SWAT and police vehicles throughout the area in Tucson.
And just hours ago, the sheriff revealing to Fox News that they're testing DNA that was found inside of Nancy's home that doesn't belong to Nancy.
These developments come just 3 days after the release of crucial doorbell camera images, giving us the first look
as it has been now 2 full weeks since Nancy Guthrie was last seen. So let's bring in Sergeant Betsy Brantner Smith, retired Illinois police officer. She was on the ground at the sheriff's office when police vehicles were coming and going, first leaving last night, and now we have these situations. What is the latest that you can tell us from there?
Well, we have at least 3 people who are being detained. We're hearing about a 4th, but understand they're detained. They're not arrested. So this is what we would call an investigatory detention. And here in Arizona, you have 24 hours from the time that you detain someone, whether you either have to charge them or you have to let them go. So we've got the scene at the Guthrie, 2 miles from the Guthrie home. Then, of course, we have the traffic stop with the Range Rover, which was towed on a flatbed truck after being partially covered with a tarp. Again, we haven't been told if that's related, but we're presuming that it is because these same personnel were involved in that. So this is it's a very active investigation still ongoing here in Pima County.
So, Sergeant, do you have any indication of who these people might be that were detained? They're obviously in a house, I guess, a few miles away from the Guthrie house. I would imagine there are neighbors, people in the area who might know who these people are. Are you getting word of anything regarding the people that are the owners or the residents of this home?
This home was literally less than 2 miles, really a mile as the crow flies, from the Guthrie home. It's in a very upscale area of Pima County, also in the Catalina foothills. We've heard a lot about that. But who these people are, other than 2 males and a female and potentially another male, that information is not being released. And we want to be very respectful. I know it's frustrating for everyone. Why haven't they had a press conference? Why aren't they releasing more information? The investigation is so active, and plus we have a family, the Guthrie family in Tucson, that is having to deal with this on that very guttural familial level.
Sergeant, but to be clear, I wasn't suggesting that the investigators or the sheriff have, whether they have released information. I was just saying from the ground, like people that we are talking to, have any neighbors come forward to say, oh, I know the people who live there, I've seen them before?
We really haven't had anybody yet come forward.
Got it.
Yeah, and so, Sergeant, you're so right about, we only know what we know. And in cases like this, every single time that we cover them, early reports and rumors often are false. So let's drill into just sort of what we've seen transpire overnight. Obviously, there are the 2 scenes, authorities telling us that when they went in and detained the 3 individuals at that home, that was tied to the Guthrie investigation. Now, we also had video of SWAT vehicles as part of the surge when they went initially into that. What does that tell you to see SWAT vehicles responding in that?
Well, and I was down at the sheriff's department, most of the night when these officers deployed. And one of the notable things was when SWAT was deploying, everyone else in the agency was being called in. So we saw multiple units deploying, not just for SWAT to go out, but also, this is a county of almost 2 million people. So they had to bring in additional personnel. We also saw some of our neighboring agencies, Marana, Oro Valley, Saurita, come in on a mutual aid aspect. But when SWAT goes out, and the bomb squad went out too, but then they came back. When SWAT goes out, it's because they feel that it's going to be a potentially very dangerous situation. And remember, we've got a suspect who was armed, and we have a potential hostage situation. So it was with the utmost caution that SWAT went out.
So with those 3 people that were detained, and I realize that we have very limited information right now, but we don't even know if those people actually live in that house, or do we?
We do not know that. We've got, names on, property tax names, things like that. But none of that has been released. And again, we don't know if they're suspects.
Right.
You know, when you go in and you serve this kind of search warrant and take people, you detain them, you've got to get them out of there and then sort everything out. And of course, we saw a swarm of FBI agents, of forensic vehicles, as when those people were removed, all that moved in.
All right, Sergeant Betsy Brandner Smith, thank you for your insight. We'll check in with you throughout the day.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page.
With a range of up to 1,000 meters, this laser pointer allows you to easily and precisely hit targets from afar.
So late Friday night, authorities descended on a home less than 2 miles from the Nancy Guthrie home in Tucson, Arizona. 3 people are detained, we understand. They are being questioned in relation to the disappearance of Savannah Guthrie's mother. Joining us now live from the scene in Tucson, Arizona, Fox News correspondent Max Gordon. What's the latest, Max?
Hey there, John. Well, it's been a very active night here in the Tucson area for law enforcement. A lot of developments in the Nancy Guthrie case. Let's get you up to speed. So this all started for us. We first heard wind of this at around 8:30 p.m. local time. That's when we were getting some rumors that there's some law enforcement activity very close to Nancy Guthrie's house. We drove on over here. It was only about a 5-minute drive, about 2 miles driving, and that's where we saw a very heavy law enforcement presence. That's where we later learned 3 people were detained, 2 males, and then 1 woman who is the mother of one of those 2 males, detained at a house in this neighborhood. This is a very upscale neighborhood. A lot of these homes listed on Zillow for more than $1 million. And since we've been here, over the past couple of hours, we've seen a lot of vehicles, law enforcement vehicles, going through this barricade. You can see behind me 2 SWAT team vehicles leaving the scene, and then several unmarked vehicles, potentially FBI vehicles, going on in, a whole convoy of them, really, as investigators comb through a house, we believe, in this neighborhood. It's unclear at this point if those 3 individuals that were detained lived in that home. It's also unclear if these individuals that were detained are actually suspects. Now, there is a second scene of interest. It's unclear if this second scene of interest is tied to the Nancy Guthrie case, but law enforcement, local law enforcement, as well as FBI agents have been on the scene of this second scene where a car was stopped in a Culver's fast food parking lot. Evidence tape was wrapped in evidence tape. 1 individual was detained in that instance. And this Range Rover, the silver or gray Range Rover, had its license plates covered, and it was then put on a flatbed and towed out of that parking lot. This is all based off of what our photographer on the ground was seeing. So a second scene of interest. Again, unclear if that second scene is tied to the Nancy Guthrie investigation. This scene behind us here, this home here in this neighborhood in the Catalina foothills, it has been confirmed tied to the Nancy Guthrie investigation. So in total, we've had 4 individuals detained this evening. Again, unclear if any of these individuals are suspects in this case. Law enforcement has released very few details. Earlier in the evening, it appeared that the Pima County Sheriff's Department was going to release a statement to us. And then several hours later, they said that essentially they just had a law enforcement investigation, operations going on, and that the FBI had asked them to not release further details. So still a lot of questions about what exactly has transpired this evening, how all this relates to the Nancy Guthrie case. Again, everyone just hoping that Nancy Guthrie is still alive, but at this hour, many, many questions remain. Back to you.
All right, thanks very much. Max Gordon reporting live there from Tucson. Let's turn now to Fox News contributor Ted Williams. He's a former D.C. homicide detective, also a defense attorney, joining us on the phone now. Ted, you know, we just heard from Max that they are not saying there in Tucson whether this Range Rover that was seized from the Culver's parking lot is related to the Nancy Guthrie investigation. However, everybody who was there, or a good number of the people who were there, are wearing FBI jackets. I can't imagine that the FBI is looking into too many other crimes in the Tucson area right now. It would seem that Range Rover may have something to do with the Guthrie case.
Absolutely. I have to believe that this case of Nancy Guthrie going missing is the number one priority on all law enforcement out there. You know, I've heard, and you heard our last commentary about the questions. What are the questions that I have for this investigation? I'd like to just share that with you if I could.
Please.
I'm hoping, first of all, that there's a press conference tomorrow and that they will clear up a great deal of information that the public should be given. For instance, this investigation, one of the things we don't know, John, is really what was the motive. We know that an 84-year-old woman that has medical illnesses was taken from her home. We don't know really if it was for a ransom, meaning that someone was asking for money. We know that 2 alleged notes, one sent to KOLD, a television station, and one sent also to TMZ. These 2 notes were asking for money, but we don't know the authenticity of those notes. This is information that has not been shared with us. We don't know if any ransom has been paid to anyone. These are very much question marks. John, you and I have been around a while. Normally, when someone breaks into a home, they break in for several different reasons: to commit a burglary, perhaps a robbery, or a kidnapping. If it is, in fact, a kidnapping, normally within a reasonable period of time, the kidnappers will communicate with the family or law enforcement where they are going and what they want. None of that has occurred, as we know, from the public standpoint. I think that the law enforcement there are asking for the public's help. They need to share as much information as they possibly can. Now, granted, they can't share everything, and we don't want to know everything. But was there a kidnapping for money, or is something else going on here that we are not cognizant of?
Yeah, and you know, it's been said from the get-go that because those ransom demands came in, you know, quite a few hours and I think even days after Nancy disappeared, that it's quite possible it was just some opportunist who thought maybe he could make some quick Bitcoin by putting in ransom demands, and you know, might have absolutely nothing to do with her actual disappearance. Interesting, we were just watching the video of the silver Range Rover that has been taken away on a flatbed by sheriff's officers and the FBI. They were holding up a blocking tarp, if you will, so that, you know, the reporters who were standing there couldn't see what it is in the back of that Range Rover that they were photographing. What's the reason for that, Ted? Why keep that why go to that extent just to block the media view of what's in the back of that car?
Well, it may very well be that the perpetrator or perpetrators that are involved in the kidnapping of Nancy here, there may be something in that vehicle that they don't want even those individuals to know. I often believe, John, that when we are on television like this talking about these kinds of incidents, that in many of these cases that the perpetrator or perpetrators are actually watching us to see what they can glean from what is going on. And that may very well be why they are blocking out and screening out as much as they possibly can right now, meaning law enforcement there on the scene with that vehicle.
Ted Williams, Fox News consultant, former D.C. police detective, homicide detective, now a defense attorney as well. Ted, thank you.
I'm Steve Doocy. I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And clip.
We come on the air with some breaking news as we continue to follow the latest in the search for Nancy Guthrie. We do know 3 people were detained late last night. That's according to Fox News. And Fox reports the source giving this information. Says after receiving a tip, authorities detained 2 males plus one of their moms. The source said a warrant had been served. The source cautioned that during a warrant execution, technically everyone is detained. Meanwhile, officials at a residence near East Orange Grove Road and North First Ave related to the Guthrie case. Because this is a joint investigation at the request of the FBI, no additional information is currently available. So that was a post there that was shared to X from the Pima County Sheriff's Office. We also do know a Pima County Sheriff's SWAT vehicle was seen leaving the active law enforcement area about 2 miles from Nancy Guthrie's home. I'm going to ask my producer to get that up here, that SWAT vehicle image that was also shared to social media. The departure comes after a long line of additional vehicles, possibly law enforcement, was ushered into the area where authorities have been operating following earlier warrant activity. Officials have not released new information about the operation or who may be involved. Now, just to quickly recap here, this comes as a press conference still not being announced from officials as of this morning. Also coming after a busy few days in this investigation, where earlier this week, if you remember, video and photo surveillance footage was shared with the public, and a white tent was put up outside of the entryway to Guthrie's home and quickly taken. taken down. But I wanted to share this here with you. This is some of the footage we're getting in from overnight there, as late last night, police activity could be seen 2 miles from Nancy Guthrie's home, and local police and several unmarked vehicles, including forensics and SWAT teams, could be seen gathering 2 miles from that home there in Tucson, Arizona. And Arizona Sheriff's Department says it received more than 4,000 calls 24 hours after videos of a masked person on Guthrie's porch were released. 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie first reported missing on February 1st, so we are now officially at the 2-week mark here. To share more about what we know so far and what we still don't know is Bobby McDonald, former Secret Service. Thank you so much for joining us, as always, on Live Now from Fox. Bobby, we do appreciate it.
Good morning. Always great to be back with you.
A lot to discuss here, obviously. Let's start with this. Why have we not had a press conference? Pima County putting out on social media, we'll have an update for you when we feel it's appropriate to have an update. But at this point, this feels like a big development. So why are we not getting a press conference?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I'm not sure that I have a good answer for you. I think that the Pima County out there has decided to kind of shut down their communications to the public with respect to the fact that their early on communications efforts really didn't go very well. And now you've got that combination of the FBI little rift, if you will, that's out there. It's a little bit troubling. Look, I'm all about keeping information close to the vest when we're in the middle of an investigation, but we're 2 weeks into this now, and we're dealing with an individual who is related to a very notoriety person in our society. So I'm a little bit concerned that we're not getting anything, but I am happy to see that a search warrant was effected last night, and hopefully that's going to be moving us in the right direction.
Yeah, and Bobby, before I continue with my questions here, I did want to put this up on the screen, as we do like to have our viewers write in and ask these questions. So if you have a question about this case, please scan that QR code in the top right-hand corner of your screen. We're going to be answering these questions live here throughout this interview with Bobby McDonald. So once again, open up the camera app on your smartphone, tap and scan that QR code, or you can head to livenowfox.com/connect. Please weigh in. We'd love to hear from you. All right, Bobby, let's continue, though. So I just want to get into the technicalities of what some of these terms that we're hearing from law enforcement are. When authorities say 3 people were detained during the execution of a warrant, what does that typically mean in terms of this investigation?
But when that warrant is obtained, that we have to go through a magistrate or a judge that has to sign off on that warrant. Police have to indicate that they're looking for something specific within that house that would be related to the case that they're investigating. So when that warrant is effected at the house, those individuals are identified and are asked to hop over there into the dining room and sit down, and we'll get back to you when we find either what we're looking for or when we're finished going through your home looking for the items that we're looking for. So they are not arrested at that point, but they are being detained at that moment at that location for the actions that are going to be taken by the police department and the FBI in this case.
Work today is broken. Every day, people juggle so many different tools just to get work.
And as I shared here, I feel like we have slowly been getting more information after waiting for quite some time to get information to come out about this. I just had up on our screen here that surveillance video that was released earlier this week here to the public from law enforcement. My question to you, Bobby, why are there no timestamps on this surveillance video? Does that play a factor into this?
The timestamps with respect to Ring cameras or Nest cameras, these are for personal use. So their algorithms and technology, unless you're asking for it or you purchase that aspect of it, really don't have timestamps necessarily. They're more for security purposes. Obviously, this snippet is well known now to be involved in this case, and it would be great if we would have some timestamps. But a lot of the technology with the assets and tools that we use in our homes or around our businesses don't necessarily have that technology involved.
Right. And I just wanted to quickly recap for our viewers who are just tuning in here as we do await some viewer questions come in. We saw this was released here, that backpack that police put out just the other day. But I also wanted to share this here. And this was this white tent that we saw go up just a few days ago outside of the entryway to Nancy Guthrie's home. That tent was taken down a short time later. I mean, I think we're talking just maybe 2 or 3 hours at that point, because we were bringing this live to our viewers. What do you make of that? Why would a tent be going up outside of the entryway to the home? Where that footage was recorded and then taken down so quickly.
You know, I think when we look at this investigation and we're 2 weeks into it now, we've got the home of Nancy Guthrie, we've got the home of the daughter and son-in-law. There just seems to have been a little bit of disjointedness in this investigation. And investigations don't always go according to script, or as we see on a 30 or 60-minute TV show, on Friday night. So they have been all over the place a little bit, and it does look a little disjointed. But obviously, there was some nugget of information, some nugget of evidence there that they wanted to obtain or they wanted to test, or something was found in that area, and they were able to effectively decide its relevance in a short period of time.
Now, something else I wanted to ask you here. We heard from Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos as he denied claims that his department had not been cooperating with federal authorities after reports law enforcement there had withheld key evidence from the FBI. But we did see this post here from the Pima County Sheriff's Department as this was just put out a couple hours ago at this point. And you and I were chatting before this interview about this
Expert in that area, and I do not know the. The answer to that question.
All right, Julian, do we have another question that we want to pull up? All right, we're pulling up another question here. Why weren't there any car tracks to follow up on?
Well, a lot of the terrain out there is very hard packed. It's almost like a cement. So it's not overly sandy and doesn't necessarily show up on any tracks on the ground. So it's a very difficult aspect of this particular location. That's the same situation with people's footprints leaving in and around. There is nothing to see. Plus, we've also had they've had some rain out there today. Again, that was from 2 weeks ago, but yeah, just not a lot of evidence in that regard to be able to take us to a vehicle, to then a residence, to then some people.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think we do have one more that I wanted to share here before we continue in the conversation. Okay, so let's pull this one up. And thank you to all our viewers for writing in here your questions. Are there any efforts made to track? persons who are involved in this case. As we've been sharing here, Bobby, TMZ saying they've been receiving several notes here recently this week.
I tried a ton of AI work tools. Then I tried Monday.com. Game over. Monday.com is super easy to use and note constantly, especially on those back-to-back meeting days. And my team used Monday Sidekick to work up all.
Working on all of that, but I think the other thing that, again, you can correct me if I'm wrong, since last night, I don't think we've seen enough information from that individual to give that person the credibility that they need with respect to the information they have. There's also a reward out there. So the question is, why are you not going for the reward as opposed to the crypto deposit into the account? So I think that individual really needs to speed up the information that they have, throw something out there that the authorities can chew on, and then figure out if that's credible information. Let's get going. I don't think the authorities are going to just rely on an email that says, I know something you don't know, and if you deposit into this account, I'm going to give you the information.
Yeah. From TMZ. Now, transparently, that was from yesterday, but that is what we're referring to here, answering that question. Bobby, I did want to ask you, we do know that several tips have come in, thousands of tips have come in. How does law enforcement work through that? How do they know if a tip is credible? I mean, what is the thought process there? If you've got thousands of tips coming in, how do you work through that? How do you even begin to really investigate what might be credible and what might not?
Well, the authorities have to rely on all that information. They have to triage it to see how credible it is on the front end of the information, and they have to meticulously go after all of those tips to figure out if they are credible and if they're not. It's a painstaking process. If it has to do with videos, they have to go each frame of the video. If it's interviewing people, they have to go interview those people. They then have to try to corroborate the information that they're giving, and is that information going to be helpful to the investigation? Then they have to make sure that that information is given to all the agencies that would need that information. They need to make sure that it's given in real time, quickly, and in a credible fashion, so that the investigation can continue to run its course. Information is great, but it's not very good if we don't get it to the people that we need it to get to, and we have to get it to them in a timely fashion. So all of those tips, all of those individual nuggets of information, all of those interviews have to be conducted, and they have to be conducted in a very quick fashion. So when a lead comes in and it has a little bit of good information, a little bit of credibility, officers and agents have to respond immediately, whether it's 5 minutes before their shift was ending or 5 minutes after it started. They've got to get out there and get that information, sort it out, chew on it, see if it's good, see if it's going to keep the investigation going, and then move on to that next tip that hopefully might be the piece of the puzzle that gets us over the finish line.
Yeah, and you know, as we've been saying here, we have not gotten a press conference from officials. I imagine, Bobby, that a lot of the information that they are receiving and working through, they are not sharing with the public in order to not jeopardize the investigation here. But how careful do law enforcement agencies need to be at this stage to avoid jeopardizing a potential prosecution?
Absolutely. Excellent question. That's exactly right. We've got to be careful that we do everything by the book, that we treat all of these people who are detained properly with probable cause before arrest. We've got to make sure that we're getting all of our evidence collected. We've got to make sure that we're not screwing it up and getting in our own way. And that can happen. And especially an investigation of this type, with this notoriety, with it being 24/7 on the news every day, we're talking about it. We've got to be extra careful. We need to do that in any case, but we need to be extra careful to make sure that we're doing everything possible to not let this get away from us and possibly allow for a non-prosecution or a non-guilty verdict of the person and or persons that we're going to ultimately arrest in this case.
Built-in heated industrial laser welding machine, 2000 watts power, super strong performance, 0.
And Bobby, I know we've had you on for a while, but before I let you go here, I do just want to share some of the video that we have been getting in here overnight. I also wanted to share this, that a Range Rover was towed away from a Culver's parking lot in
So what we've been doing is we've been keeping track of this breaking news here. People are joining. Let's just talk about what we know so far. We know that there's been heavy police activity just 2 miles away from the house of Nancy Guthrie. According to Fox News Digital, at least 3 people have been detained in connection to the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. That's a law enforcement source speaking with Fox News Digital. We do not know how many, if any, are considered suspects in the case. That is not a word that the police are using with this situation so far tonight. In fact, we have not gotten an official statement from police so far. The Pima County Sheriff's Department says that there will not be an on-camera press conference tonight. What they do say is that they will eventually be giving a written statement to the reporters that are out there on scene. What we've been doing is keeping tabs on the Pima County Sheriff's Department actually be given to the media in person, or if we will simply see a written statement written on social media any moment here. I have been keeping an eye on a number of these feeds, which standing by A source telling Fox News Digital that, and let's just be a little bit more specific here with what we're talking about. I'm going to read this tweet from Michael Ruiz. He says, I'm told that plus one of their moms. However, source cautions that during a warrant execution, technically everyone is detained. Clear if anyone is a suspect. That is a source speaking with Fox News Digital. We have not heard neighbor. And again, Jamie, we're getting new people that are tuning in, and they might just be hearing about this for the first time. Let's just kind of reset and let's discuss this.
Mom.